Tom Lee Institute. Personally, as someone who literally carries one of Tom Lee's paintings in his wallet everywhere I go, and speaking on behalf of everyone in this city and everyone in this room that we all inhabit a Tom Lee painting, this is very much a special treat. Today we'll be playing for you 4 pieces that were chosen to represent the travels that informed Tom Lee's studies in his young adult life, from his time at the Art Institute in Chicago, to his travels in Europe, to his relocation back home to El Paso, a place that he would later refer to as the Wonderful Country. The first piece the ensemble will be playing for you all is an arrangement of Adoration by Florence Price. Price was a female composer, something of a rarity at the time that Tom Lee was studying at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is where Florence Price was based in. She was based in Chicago. So, as an artistically minded person, there is a significant chance that Tom Lee and Florence Price were in similar artistic circles. Both Tom Lee and Florence Price began studying in Chicago in 1927. So it would make sense to showcase her work as we talk about gender roles in his art, that we celebrate her art as well. Here is Adoration. John W. Norton, Norton recommended that Tom Lee go out and see the world and see Europe and study the great works of art on planet Earth, which resulted in a multi-month-long tour of Europe to see said artwork, in which he saw, he went to the Louvre and he explored many different parts. And the next two pieces that the ensemble will be playing are representative of that sojourn. The first piece the ensemble will play is an excerpt from Carnival of the Animals by Camille Saint-Saëns, namely a movement titled The Swan, as a representative of Lee's travels through France. And this piece was published in 1922, right before Tom Lee was in France. So this was a relatively contemporary work at the time, which is pretty incredible to think. And there's a pretty significant chance that he would have heard this in the spaces that he was studying or congregating in artistically. The second piece the ensemble will be performing is an excerpt from Vivaldi's Winter, one of his Four Seasons concerti. And why winter, you ask? Well, because everyone could use a little bit of Vivaldi, and Tom Lee certainly did, and because, of course, winter's coming. incredible group of musicians, which we'll get to the piece in a moment, but they play so beautiful, don't you agree? On the cello, one of our resident rock of pedagogical instruction, a goddess of the C string, is Hilda Sotelo. On the violin, the newest addition to our chamber ensemble, Miss Kaylee. I'll come back to you. Our sibling duo, who have been with us for a very, very, very long time and have developed as people, as musicians, and as citizens, Eve and Daniel. Our wild card and very, very fun person to be around. He has one name like Bono, Angel. Almost probably a few years later, our ace, one of the 5 best human beings I've ever met in my life, and I've met Neil Young, Jesse O'Hara.
Symphony and Tocando Music Project are honored to be a part of this. And we have represented here 4th grade all the way to 10th grade. And this is a really exciting opportunity for us. So thank you for having us today.
And my name is Vincent Arieta. I'm the Minister of Rock and Roll. That is what it says on my business card. And this is the moment where I get to extemporize. The beautiful thing about this city artistically, and that's most represented in Tom Lee's work, is the sort of immense diversity in everything, in ideas, in colors, in sounds, in possibilities. And this next piece is a potpourri of sorts. It's called Las Chapanecas, and it is a group of Mexican melodies that are found throughout the years that are kind of collected in this festive arrangement. And I think it's one of the most incredible things that we can describe Tom Lee's return to El Paso, because El Paso is as many things as you can possibly put together in one thing. It is 3 states, 2 nations, and 1 people. It is the endlessness of the sky and the harsh reality of the earth. It is the altar of the earth. It is invocation. It is a distant view of eternity. It is the absolute possibility that anything is possible if you want to create it. That is what is in this room. That is what is within all of you. That is what is in these students. And that is what happens whenever you enter those city limits that say, welcome to El Paso. So to celebrate the wonderful country that we're in and this incredible place that we are all helping to develop, here is Las Chapanecas. Thank you all.
Featuring our soloist, who we call Mr. Daniel, because he is a teaching assistant, and he's doing really, really great things at Bowie High School, Tocando Music Project, and beyond. Take it away, sir.
want to give the special thanks to the Lea Institute for the fellowship. And part of the we really did a study program. And this is my presentation. The title is Unveiling Gender Lamatics and Tonally Hour, Reflections of the Virtually Century, Masculinity and Femininity. So I want you to keep in mind these keywords and these phrases. Those who are familiar with Tom Lee's work, you already know what it is, but those who are not familiar with it, you just I want you to open your imagination and go by the titles, The Dream of a Fed Rivers and the Titalic Gas Stairs. Use your imagination and then put a fiction in your head, in case you don't know what it is. Okay, so I got you one. So the Dream of the River, I want you to take a couple of seconds for you to enjoy the painting and then look at the details. It was painted in 1946. We look at the landscape, the trees, but I don't want to be good words in your head, okay? So I want you to do exactly the same with the next painting. So we notice that this is 50 years apart. It was painted in 1994, the 2000 Gas Stairs. So Tom Lee was a correspondent in the Second World War. Okay, so you can imagine right now, and then you can open up your hearts, which is like everything that it wasn't through your mind. It has some kind of justification of what Tom Lee was trying to convey it felt about the war. Okay, Tom Lee's hours, influence in personal relationships. Lee's representation of femininity was shaped by his mother, grandmothers, and his wives Nancy, Sarah, who provided models of nurturing and resilience. And I wanted to add a high school teacher, Andrew Evans, who motivated him to study art in Chicago. And then his wartime experiences involved his portrayals of masculinity, depicted resilience, vulnerability, and isolation. Society, this is Sarah, the second wife. She's witty, and this undated, this painted. And Tom Lee's personal experiences and relationships shake his view on gender, and they feature people like his mother, grandmothers, or wife, Sarah Lee. And the objective of my presentation is to examine how Lee's art reflects and critiques gender norms of his time. Remember, he was born in 1907, and he died in Tatsuma. Okay, so take that into account. So we didn't have gender studies as a discipline in the 1970s, okay? So, but you will see, you will be impressed of what he does. Okay, so we have this societal expectation during that time, and the 20th century American culture promoted rigid gender roles, some very traditional, and his work reflects those roles, often portraying men as stoic and women as nurturing in line with the social norms of his time. Also, pay attention to the symbols, because I create the symbols to connect the theories to what I'm saying and to the paintings. Okay, so this is my curriculum framework. This is the lenses that I use to study his work. And one of the theories is hegemonic masculinity, is done by Connell in 1995. He defines dominant masculine ideas, emphasizing strength, authority, and emotional restraint. So relevant to Lee's portrayals of stoic, isolated male figures, particularly those shaped by the war. So keep in mind this symbol. Whenever I'm going to be talking about hegemonic masculinity, you will see this symbol. And then I use another theory done by gender performativity, Judy Butler in 1990. She suggested that gender is performed based on the societal expectations rather than being inherent. Applies to Lee's portrayals of women as nurturing aligned with traditional family roles. So keep that symbol in your mind, because we're going to be talking about performativity as well. And then the third theory that I used, it was done by Nancy Chodorov in 1978. And that's the mothering theory. And basically what she says is the mother-child relationship shapes gender roles. The practice of mothering is socially constructed. And then the father is in charge of the male superego in opposition to the mother. And the male superego focuses on individualism and public life, and the boys tend to detach from the family role of the mother because they need to become public. So they need to be in the outside world. And she's saying that in this theory, the boys doing that, they do it constructively in the social to be successful out there. So they kind of like don't acknowledge the family role of the man consciously, right? Describes the expectations for women to manage emotions and caregiving, and it connects to list the fixtures of women in roles, emphasizing emotional resilience in stability. So we have these theories, and then these theories, what is the relevance to Lee's artwork? These theories provide a framework to analyze how Lee's art reflects and critiques gender norms. So he's critiquing of it. Really, these theories they came out after his work, and then he's doing an array. So, and highlight the emotional and societal pressures present in the year 20th century American gender roles. So we have it's not open. Okay. So we have an example over here. The ranger escort west of the Pecos depicts a black and isolated figure embodied resilience symbolizing the masculine ideal self-reliance. That in 1957. And then we have an example. So go back to the second painting that I showed you, and then compare if the things that you thought when you saw the painting is the same as my definition over here. And it captures the hunting expression of our traumatized southern, symbolizing the psychological toll of conflict and the isolation of faults. So what experiencing psychological impact? These experiences as our artist change his exploration of masculinity. His work reflects the psychological scars of Weber, critiquing the ideal of men as the impervious to emotional strength. So that is femininity. The representation of women, the idealized femininity and emotional complexity. So these portraits capture the idealized femininity, intermingled with emotional depth, emphasizing resilience, grace. So take a look because reflect on what he's doing in this portrait of satellite, which is the second white, and then go back into the dream of a river, and they. And my definition is according to the theories and symbolizing the women as source of emotional stability and nurturing and strength. And then this is Sarah with tenderness embodying his vision of femininity, and it was painted in 1939. And then we're talking about the first wave of feminism, which is we happened in the 1920s. We were like fighting for the right to become citizens or vote, and then also the access to education. So look like Tomby is going away. Now the influence of the Matella figures, I wanted to put this biograph because he created this, he drew this biograph when he was in Chicago. He was feeling homesick, and then he looked up on the constellations, and then he thought about the Frankie Mountains, and then he used the horoscopes over here, the signs in the Oriole in Lyra, and it has a point of connecting him to his home. So I wanted to connect this influence into the maternal figures, and I wanted to create his mom and his grandmothers, and I wanted to name this. Zombie's mother, Sola Ukli. She was born in 1882, and she died in 1936. And she had a significant influence in his artistic portrait of women, contributed to understanding of femininity as emotionally complex and resilience. Her natural quality take his depictions of women as stable figures, which is evidently his idealized portraits of various works. This is a very important aspect, the impact of losing her, along with his wife, Nancy. The first wife, she died of appendicitis in 1936, and then the mom dies in the same year. And then the grandmother, lost a grandmother, Elizabeth Good, so left a lasting mark in his emotional artistic life. So the way he was going to be connected with family changed. He lasted with it for 2 years. And then he met Sarah Lee, and you can see it in his beautiful documentary about, it's called I think the title is The Upward Date. So you can go and look at it on YouTube, and then you'll see how they met. It's a beautiful piece of work over there where they put in it. You can get more familiar with the relationship with Saturn. So he proposed the first day, and then, okay, you go and see it. We watch. Okay, so continue. So that's an maternal mother, Mary Elizabeth Good. And then she moved from Millionaires to Texas, and that Cook had introduced him to the stories of resilience and liberation. And then the paternal grandmother is in the Southern heritage, Mary Lucy Morley. So his paternal lineage may have connected him to the rhythm traditions and the cultural ethos of the American South. Adding another layer to his portrayal of people and landscape, his choice to paint pioneers, indigenous people, not a landscape. My echo is how the narrative plague in the Southwestern identity. So that's check his identity for pro-defendant side. Okay, so we have another example over here. And then I'm going to go back to the theme of a river, the English of the theme of a river, and the female aspect of the femininity. And then we have another portrait of Sarah Lee, and this is the political resilience. What I noticed is the original picture that he took to paint Sarah is smiling. And in the final outcome, she's not smiling, she's just a quiet and resilience and very controlled with the grace and emotional estimate. From continue. So Nancy Chodorov, she continued on the theme of emotional isolation. And this is a recurring theme in his portrait masculinity. Men are often depicted during burning salon, embodying wisdom, resilience, and the sense of the personal connection. So we have a lonely tomboy here. This is an example that illustrates a solitary figure against an expansive, empty landscape. So it's seen in Ethiopia, and it happened to be open. Okay? So that's a critique of societal expectation of masculinity. So leads where he gives the society an ideal of men as emotionally self-sufficient, and then highlights the internal isolation men may experience when forced to uphold these standards. So Nancy Chodorov, she continued she said that the emotional labor pride sphere. So now we want to go covering the spaces. And she said in the pride sphere, discusses how women, often responsible for caregiving and nurturing within the family, are assigned to the private sphere. So this unpaid and invisible labor who forces the notion that women primary roles is within the household, creating psychological and social boundaries. And then the connection to this, this connection to the PTS and psychological tool. So this experience has as what artists importantly understanding of the psychological impact on soldiers. So his depiction of isolated figure reflects an early recognition of the PTSD and the mental strain experienced by men, especially in Marta. Okay, so we went into the fabric and the spaces, the public in realms and the private realms and the gender roles. So the spatial division reflects society's expectations on men, public figures, and women as caretakers of private familial spaces. These contrasts emphasize the conflict male or free male within traditional roles, while male are associated with freedom and independence. And in the visual contrast, examples include scenes where male figures are set against expansive landscapes, while female figures occupy limited, intimate settings. This technique underscores the societal pressures that shapes gender expectations and limitations. So, and in Tom's art, okay, so this is the key of the presentation. Tom Lee's composition often use these spatial settings to convey and challenge gender roles. So we really know these words, but he's challenging according to the gears and the observations While he typically depicts men in expansive landscape, symbolizing independence, his portrayal of women, particularly Sarah, sometimes defies his traditional balance. And then the public versus the parodians, so male figures typically depicted in vast urban landscapes, symbolizing autonomy, freedom, and the societal expectation from men to occupy public had to grow. Then we have an example, the nesters, that we are showing in the next slides. And the male figure working the land represent resilience and isolation, embodying the masculine idea of self-reliance. So we have the female figures often shown in intimate and close settings, yet Lee also portrays women in open natural spaces, conveying autonomy and profound connection to nature. So you notice on the Sarah's portrait that she is in the open space. Pictures that they carry in a book in one of the pages. And then example, Sarah Reed depicts Sarah outdoors in an open landscape, the one that we saw at the beginning, symbolizing strength and independence, challenging the idea of women confined to domestic spaces. Okay, and then the Sabbath afternoon, which is this one right over here, shows a woman sitting in an open, serene landscape, merging tradition of femininity with freedom and introspection. Okay. So we have this one right over here, which is the Mr. Leeward, that he was a good friend of Sarah Lee. They were the first two women to serve as the United Way Board of Directors, who were affectionately referred to at the time as the Gold Dust Twins, for the tireless efforts of fundraising the local charities. And then if you notice, we have City Light right here in the back. She's not with the closest space, with the current space, but she's in the middle. Okay, and then we have another example over here. You wonder, I say, she's outdoors in Lechi City. She's separate, but she's sitting over there in the outdoors. And that was painted in 1930. And then we have another one over here. And the nesters, the one that I mentioned previously. And then whenever you see any of the paintings, like a lot of stories passing through your mind. And I was thinking, like, maybe she went to take lunch, the husband, maybe she's ready, like, to work as well. And the position that he is painting, right, she's kind of like being strong and ready, like, for life. Okay. So this is my conclusion. Topless work serves as a exploration of gender expectations using special themes, emotional isolation and resilience, to reflect societal views on masculinity and femininity, complexity of portrayals of both men and women. His representation of men highlight themes of autonomy, resilience, and psychological isolation, often set in expansive landscape. His portrayal of women, especially Sarah, offer a blend of traditional femininity with autonomy, strength, and introspection, challenging stereotypical gender spaces. Okay. So I wanted to go look at this, that my cosmic communication with Tom. And I wrote back the videograph, and it's the old parties that passed on and lost this. So it was in September, this past September. And my sister wanted to find chiles en nogada, and they didn't know where to go. And then I said, okay, let's go to La Posada de San Pablo. I never been in that place, but says in the internet they offer like delicioso chiles en nogada. So I waited, to my surprise, look at what happened. Okay. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so that's the way we communicate when we conduct research. So we touch it to the spirit. But in this specific, it only is like very expansive and beautiful. So that I was about to meet, because I knew a little bit about him, but I wanted to know more. But the more I dig, the more I read, the more I respected him and admired him. And then that was like intense. That was it. So Carico España must be nearly. So like, look at what Buenos Aires and the town hall. So he says, what happened? I'm going to show you pictures later. And then in La Paso, so we can find out. She's working on his presentation research journey. And then we went to the, in our cities, as to the Humanities Research Center. This is where I found most of his work. And then I have I bought these books of these novelas because I'm a writer, so I went straight to the books before the pages. And I bought this book, The Rebels and the Primal Job, and then I read fragments of the books, and then we watched the movie, and then, the researchers here, so when you went to the red books section, was the field of seeing the original manuscripts. So that changed my size perspective, like again and again and again. And then when I typed in female, because I was into the gender, and nobody gets reading about gender roles and the Tommy art, I found 70 entries. So it was a more dated female that to explore and to see. And then, so this is the painting. The one more thing that happened. Corny. I was having breakfast with one of my friends. He was going to come today for TV. And then we went to buy a pair of earrings, and I started to talk to a woman who was dressed up like very unique. It was Sunday. And then I say, you have a beautiful attire because this is Southwest country style. She's like, yeah, because I'm with my grandson and then this is how they dress in the weekends. But during the weekdays, I dress like regular for work in an office. And then like, what office do you work at? At Top Lease? Just get. And I say, okay, got one more thing. Synchronicity. The beautiful things happen when you're 100% like enthusiastic and you put your heart to when you do it. So it's what happened. Okay, so this is the Tomley. This is like some photos, and it's more dedicated to the bullfight. So he gives a lot of takes on the bullfight discipline or artistic expression, and they have prescriptions of PPEs, and they got some tickets because they have this activity requirements. They used to put those activity requirements, not any corporate. But in the end, that's the final, that's the closing. Okay, so I found in the special collections este reconocimiento that I want to read it in Spanish. Okay, so and it took him in September. So look at the pattern. It's like his room in the restaurant in September, and the day he was given unrecognition in September of 1957, le van a reír. Testimonio de admiración que otorga el alcalde de Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, en honor del señor Tom Lee, reconocimiento de sus elevadas cualidades literarias y artísticas y su valiosa contribución al desarrollo de las bellas artes, Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, septiembre de 1957, René Mascareños, colegas. And that's it. And yeah. So that's my presentation. Apparently there is the Q&A.
Yeah, there's time questions, sure.
Okay. You want to comment? Dilo.
Good. That was an interesting surprise. You told me there was going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
And all this, it's kind of like when you're pregnant, you see all these other pregnant women around which you don't know this. You don't know.
Yes.
So I'm glad you gave a chronology of gender studies because, it's a relatively new line of inquiry. But I know you were saying, I know you probably put 100% into this, but are you aware of any other artists, whether they were in Chicago or other places, and had similar artistic practices that were challenging gender at the time?
Not that I can recall right now. So, like during that time, there were charity gender books, like, I need to go and see. Because in this specific, it was going to be at the beginning. It's like, what about all these theories that came out like after the 70s, like he started to paint in the 30s? How am I gonna be like analyzed? And security is possible, but and then I found that that's one of the texts of Henri. He was reflecting of it. But he vivo the spirits. He wasn't a bravo. I was told that he wasn't a bravo. He wasn't a bravo. He was a witness of the reality. And then he even said when he was sent as a correspondent in the Second World War, he said, I think I want to become emotional because I wanted to be as very objective and then read and paint what I witnessed, what I saw during that time as a correspondent. But in the Battle of the Freemans, you see this thing of like being not tied to the norms, también raro, but nada de que me puedo quedar mal. Otro artista de ese tiempo que haya desafiado los roles. You tipo más. Víctor. Okay, te la demo. Okay. Question, comments?
So, I know, we can figure out like these interpretations of what he's displayed. When you were like researching in his own like writings, were you seeing like direct introspection and like consciousness of it, or was this experience more nuanced than you're mentioning as a correspondence? He's just being an object.
He wasn't 100% in introspection, because how else can you convey the message? Like you see the 2000 Justice, it says it all. It's in one image. Say 1,000 words, so I'm painting so the middle words so he can. And I guess they got to talk about some more than that, but I don't know how they managed to do it in that time. Because he's conveying, he's saying, look. So for me, is when I grab the theory here, demonic masculinity, it's already out there. So we already know what it is. But we are not sake how to manage it and kind of like make it work for our humanity, for our cards. But he knew it. So he was look at the lithograph. He was young when he did that lithography, and he felt homesick, like he looked up to the sky. You see, maybe I'm going to find an answers over there. The sky can't find answers like right up here. So we draw libraries in the Oric, and his visualizing. In the Insta contage, they have a very beautiful phrase, and they could his kind of like he's visualizing, and he's seeing the tracking montage. He's connecting his soul to his homeland, which is a past.
Yes. Were you sort of surprised along the way? Did you have some ideas that you...
Yes, I was like, because, as a feminist myself, and as a teacher in gender studies, we get preconceived ideas. Because this is how much, and this is what we read, this is how we see the world, this is how we like criticize gender norms, basically. But in the end, that's a different spectrum of reality. Like to find, like, for me, what changed totally is my visit to the Humanity Research Center. And then when I saw the manuscripts, and then when I saw the paintings and the matrix, because over here, when you type woman, gender, female, and the one that you did, you don't find much information with access. But over there, it's like, it's like, of course. And then you see the huge. I don't want to use the word huge, but how he's transcending. There is a reason why he's transcending. And there is a reason why we ought to get to listen to this presentation every year too. And there is a reason why he gets an institute, and because he's already transcending. He transcended his life while he was building life and paid and writing, but now he's transcending press. So yeah, there was a lot of surprises that all the time, not surprising necessarily, but it wasn't surprise. That's not the word. Like a change of my perspective. So yeah, my opinion was. Thanks for your question. Comments? Yes.
Is your favorite artwork from all of it?
All of them, but the Dream of a Fair River, especially because of the title. In the painting, but it's the title. The me being like families in Helvetica sometimes. It's like the word fair, though. And the word dream and the connotation of everything, and I like already there, no? Trying to find that justice somehow, which is on identity. Yeah, that's it. ¿Listo?
I know, I really like that question.
So I want to continue. I'm going to continue with the. I know the fellowship is ending and so the work of everything, but in my case, like I found something else that I want to add, and it's the Buddha, his dog. And he just kissing string in photos, and that part is like my dog of 14 years old. She recently passed, and I didn't know what to do with this. Grief, this sadness, and I have an altar for my dog, and then I went to fight Buddha, the dog Tumbly, and then he wrote expensively, but he didn't publish. It's not published as a manuscript, but essentially in the sense of like, I mean, the 200 pages, I guess. So kind of like I'm gonna continue. Like I put in my head that yeah, I'm gonna keep on like reading and reading. A monkey praising that way.
No, it's just so it's just interesting to me that you love what he said about his dog Pluto, but after he died, a man named Stanley Marcus, he started Neiman Marcus in the store, that he published small little works. And he called asking for a manuscript that was unpublished of Tom Leake's. And Tom's wife, Sarah, who you showed, found that the manuscript that he probably dissolved, and that became on. It's called what's it called? It's called Vibrant. It was already. It's published in a small book. It was the last book published on Tong. It was too sentimental. He sent it to Life magazine. Hey God, it was too sentimental. Also, they didn't publish it. But his friend Stanley Marcus did in this little time up. Okay, go fight. Thank you for interesting.
QA.
That's like another seat in a seat. Another thing, please. Yes, and Luke was the name they gave to care packages that came with soldiers overseas. When they got treatments from home, they called it Doodle.
Okay, that's all. So you guys see his beautiful dog. And he's expressing all he's sad, he's alone in the house. Look, he stabs. It's not a story, it's a description of his feelings. And why he's screaming because the house is empty, Sarah wants some lunch. He was feeling like that was the first day that he was alone with the Toro, and he started to write. So they say it was too sentimental.
Like very emotional, initial. Then nothing but someone else picked it up. Okay? Yep, so.
Thank you very much.
Very interesting presentation. This is a restaurant that's owned by a friend of the Institute. The guy who was the opera singer in the video we showed, that he's the owner of this, was the owner of this restaurant in Juarez. His name was Jose Mario Sanchez Soledad. He's a wonderful singer, but he owned that restaurant. Anyways, what's up with this on it, Albert?
Yeah, entire boom is sifted.
Yeah, he's a big fan of Tom Pease.
Really, you're the expert. It's tell. Wow.
He had experienced the violence abroad except Jose Mario, and a friend of his told him to choose, because he left Juarez, he was never going back because of the trauma, that a friend told him to choose one subject and explore it to the nth degree to fall back in love with his own city. And he chose bullfighting. And he started, and that's how he discovered Chopsy. And he started this restaurant and had a museum in it at the same time. But now he's giving courses on the history of Juarez. Yeah, Juarez, yeah. But I started by focusing on bullfighting, then discovered cowboys.
So yeah, do some reads. It's very amazing.
Yeah, well,
He discovered that restaurant. I mean,
never been there. I'm really so sad. And like, what kind of this stuff? Yeah, but it was a really nice. So, yeah, till recently. That happened in September this year. Yeah, Carmen said, mira, se dice ahí los. Dusty. Yeah, I just bought the book, the freight books. And then we just recently watched the movie, yeah? And that is when we walk with and the hymn is about us. The real Sashtines were the Julius and novella. The good. You see. Mena, yeah, she's a, es la Fosada de San Pablo. Está en la 16, next to the, la casa de Juan García. I remember seeing there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.